Okay, so we are recording now the webinar for Virgo 2022. We've just had the meditation and a few other comments about the course of the Ageless Wisdom that is starting next October in several weeks' time. So you all have time to check that out and to see if you want to register for that weekly course. On this page here, you can see the symbol for Virgo. It's like an M symbol, it means various things. One of the key interpretations is it is a triple symbol and represents the triple goddess, Virgo being a very feminine sign, of course, Virgin Queen. Just a moment, I just have to close something here. Okay. And the triple goddess is known as Eve, Isis, and Mary, as the Tibetan tells us in esoteric astrology. And Eve, of course, is the symbol of giving birth to humanity upon the mental plane, of humanity eating the apple of knowledge and becoming conscious. And I cover this extensively in my book, Unveiling Genesis, Mystery of the Root Races and Cycles, a whole period of individualization around about 21 million years ago. And I cover it in depth. It's called Unveiling Genesis because I deal with the first 6 chapters of Genesis and what they mean esoterically. And I deal extensively with the Garden of Eden story, which is a lot different from what's been handed down to us through the centuries. So Eve gives birth to humanity and on the mental plane, and Eve is of course Virgo. The sign of Virgo was quite prominent at individualization. In fact, Leo Virgo, Leo the lion, Virgo the face of the Virgin. In other words, the Sphinx, unification of the masculine and the feminine at that time. And I go into the astrology of that in my book, and maybe 1 or 2 essays on my website and some of my newsletters. And Isis is the goddess of the Nile River. The Nile is this great, this mighty body of water that flows through Egypt. And of course, water is a symbol of the astral plane, the feeling nature, whereas the mental plane that Eve presides over is more to do with fire, the fire of mind. So Isis is a profound symbol. She's often depicted with wings, which hints at her angelic nature. And she's also got a very close association with Sirius, the 5th star Sirius, the main path that humanity will take once they've liberated themselves eventually and begin a new evolution all over again. And of course, the Nile gives sustenance to the crops every year that it floods. And so there's this Virgo nurturing nature to do with nutrition, health, all those kinds of things. Then you have the picture here. This is by William Blake, actually, of Mother Mary with the Christ child. The Christ child has got his face on it, actually. Anyway, he was quite an advanced mystic, of course, William Blake, the poet and the artist. Very radical for his time. But Mary is a symbol of giving birth to the Christ consciousness on the physical plane. So we have the 3 goddesses embodying the mental, emotional, and physical planes. Notice that this picture also has pyramid symbology in the background, like the Isis one. And of course, again, we have Virgo connection with the Sphinx. The section here that I'm running my mouse around that looks like a fish hints at the opposite sign of Virgo, Pisces. Pisces, the fish goddesses. Opposite the sign of Virgo, the earth goddess. The sign also is variously interpreted to mean the lower intestinal tract, these wavy lines to do with the intestines, where food is broken down and nourishment is extracted and separated from the waste. Also, this section here represents the protective womb that protects the Christ child. The Christ child being a symbol for the soul consciousness gestating within the womb of time and space. So, any comments, questions there so far? You still okay with the sound? Hopefully so. Hopefully I'm not just talking to myself here. All right. So let's look at the ruler of Virgo. Now, this is a picture I took of Mercury in the famous gardens in Sintra in Portugal, just near Lisbon. And anyone who visits Portugal, make it your first stop to go and visit those gardens for the day or half a day. It's really quite amazing. So many architectural wonders and esoteric symbols and buildings. And this is obviously a statue of Mercury with his caduceus, the symbol of one of the main symbols of Mercury. You can see the wings on his hat here. He has wings on his feet. He has wings on the caduceus, the wings of the soul that surmount the staff, and the entwined serpents going up the staff. The serpents have to do with healing. They also represent the three energy channels up the spine, the Sushumna Nadi running up the center, as it's called in Sanskrit, and the Ida and Pingala Nadis, represented by the two serpents intertwined with each other. Of course, the caduceus is a great healing symbol that is used in standard Western medical practice. You see it in many of the graphics and so forth. And so Mercury with his caduceus, his healing caduceus, it's like a magic wand, really, in many ways, is the ruler of Virgo, a healing sign, one of the most well-known of the healing signs, because of Virgo's capacity, excuse me, to care for the form. Excuse me, I'm just going to drink. Virgo's capacity to care for the form nature, to nurture it, very similar to Cancer, a sign ruled by the moon. The moon relates to the form as well, of course. And the moon happens to be the esoteric ruler of Virgo, which I'll get to in a minute. I just want to read you this quote first from Esoteric Astrology that I had in my latest newsletter, I think, about Mercury and Virgo. He says, Mercury is exalted in this sign because the mother is necessarily ruled by her son, the son of mind, who is also the son of God. Of this son, she is the protector and is responsible for his development and slowly acquired experience. Mercury, being the messenger of the gods and the agent of their applied control, is therefore the agent of the third aspect, or the third ray of active intelligence, from one point of view, and of the second aspect, or love wisdom, from another. He is regarded as embodying in himself both these aspects of the mental principle, the expression of the concrete, and of the abstract mind of God. Then he goes on into a bit more esoteric symbolism. The lower concrete mind was unfolded in the first solar system, and the higher abstract intuitional mind, the pure reason, is unfolding in this system. So I'll just comment there briefly. we are in the second of three major incarnations of the solar system. I may have mentioned this in other webinars that occur over an immense period of time that spans trillions of years, actually. And so that's the short explanation there. We can expand on that another time, perhaps. So this is the love wisdom system. The previous solar system was developing active intelligence. The next solar system will be developing the will energy. So Mercury is the synthesis of manas, buddhi, mind, wisdom, which expresses itself through the human soul. Mercury rules the bridge or the Adhikarana between the personality and the soul. In Virgo, Mercury reaches its full power, for Virgo is intelligence, and the hidden Christ is wisdom or pure reason. So wisdom, pure reason, buddhi, intuition, all the same, beyond the mind, direct knowledge. Mercury stands for all those and expresses appropriately depending on what stage of soul unfoldment that you're at. Any questions before I move on there? Any comments? Mercury, of course, also rules Gemini, sign of communication and speech. Mercury in that capacity is far more vocal, far more adept, skillful at the spoken word, whereas Virgo has got a greater reputation for the written word, for the crafting of beautiful words or poetry or lyrics that encompass ideas. All right. Assuming the sound is still okay. No more questions, so we'll move on to the next page, where we discussed Hygeia, one of the asteroids, as a classic archetype of Virgo. And I'll read this quote, I'll read this section up here. Virgo has several asteroids associated with it, Ceres Demeter, Vesta, and Hygeia. When considering asteroids esoterically, they have a potent influence on the levels of the etheric physical. The Tibetan tells us, I'm quoting here, figures also must be computed when the effect upon the planets of what are called asteroids is known. This is much greater than exoteric science has so far admitted, but the significance of this must eventually be interpreted in terms of energy and on etheric levels. That is a quote, I think, from Cosmic Fire by Al Spelling, Treatise in Cosmic Fire. So Hygeia is worth noting in the personal horoscope. With regard to health matters, one will find accuracy and guidance, especially when considering transits. I find it uncannily so with Hygeia and several other asteroids, but I don't use them a lot in readings because it's just too much detail for the client to really absorb. But they're there and they work. The asteroid, and they're part of the asteroid belt, of course, which lays between Mars and Jupiter. Now, Hygeia is always associated with Asclepius, the healer. I'm going to read this little section here as well, then make some commentary. In myth, Hygeia was the daughter and assistant of the great healer Asclepius. Hygeia is usually depicted with a snake around her arm, its head probing the bowl in her hand, not in this particular picture. Well, maybe, yeah, there's the hand, the bowl is actually in Asclepius's hand. Serpents were used in ancient times to find herbs in the wild. Very interesting. Closer relationship of humans with the animal kingdom at that point. But the serpent represents many other things, one of which is the feminine Kundalini Shakti energy that lies coiled at the base of the spine. It's a subtle paradox that Virgo the Virgin has some jurisdiction over this universal sexual force and its right use. Hygeia's bowl is also the mixing bowl of the apothecary, a pharmacist containing healing potions with the serpent of wisdom drinking from it. Serpent is the symbol of resurrection and regeneration, which of course concerns Pluto and the restoration of good health. Pluto is associated with Virgo through the ancient myth of Pluto abducting Demeter's daughter Persephone, taking her into the underworld. So this serpent is found on the staff of the Scephalus and the caduceus, the symbol for Mercury, ruler of Virgo, and also the symbol for the asteroid Hygeia. These symbols of medicine and healing are very ancient, and even the original Hippocratic oath began, I swear by Apollo the physician, and by Asclepius, and by Hygeia, and Panacea, and by all the gods. Interesting. That oath has probably been forgotten now, especially the one do no harm lately. So, any comments, questions there before we go into the next part? I think another pyramid and a sphinx and the moon. And the moon is the esoteric ruler of Virgo. So let's read this quote here from Esoteric Astrology. DK says, as I have told you, Virgo is regarded by the esoteric teachers of the hierarchy to be identified with the third aspect of humanity, of divinity, I should say, with the mother principle, and is believed to be the director of energies developed and recognized in the first solar system. Virgo is a very ancient sign. It is for this reason in this solar system that Virgo is subjected predominantly to the influence of the second, fourth, and sixth ray energies through Jupiter, second ray, the moon, and Mercury, the fourth ray, and Neptune, the sixth ray. The second ray, by the way, finds its strongest expression through Virgo in this particular cycle. I think I also mentioned that in a recent newsletter. Second ray is ruled by Jupiter, which is the hierarchical ruler of Virgo. We have three different rulers for each sign, but I only discuss many of the esoteric rulers because the hierarchical ones only apply to very advanced stages of unfoldment, apparently. The moon and Mercury together indicate the activity of the higher and lower mind. Of course, the moon here represents the lower mind, lower concrete mind, and Mercury represents the higher mind in this respect, and are therefore related to the third ray of active intelligence, which controlled the first solar system. There is consequently only one planet, Vulcan, which is distinctly and purely first ray. These are points which advanced astrologers will later elaborate upon. At the present time, mean little. So elsewhere in esoteric astrology, DK talks about how the moon veils a hidden planet, Vulcan, Neptune, or Uranus. We don't really have a proper ephemeris for Vulcan yet, but we have a consensus amongst astrologers that it is probably about 8 degrees either side of the sun. So we can roughly approximate where it's going to be in the person's horoscope. Often when I see the moon making an aspect, hard or easy aspect to Neptune or Uranus, I usually give that as the veiled planet when I'm interpreting a chart. Still a lot we do not know yet, but one thing is to be sure, we are certain Vulcan exists. There have been sightings and explorations of Vulcan for the last couple of centuries, in fact, but exoteric science doesn't really admit it yet. So as I said before, the moon is the esoteric ruler of Virgo and the exoteric ruler of Cancer. Two feminine signs, Cancer the mother, of course, it gives birth to the form, and Virgo nurtures the form. We have a comment here in the chat. Quite a long comment. Rebecca discussing Raphael's Sistine Madonna. very beautiful, very sublime image. Contemplating in the month of Virgo as I meditate, I am the mother and the child. I matter am. The image was received directly to Raphael from the spiritual worlds and emanates powerful healing radiation. Rudolf Steiner held this image in great esteem. Raphael's other incarnations were Lazarus and John the Baptist, according to Steiner, I guess. Phil, please share with us some of your personal impressions over the years of the mantra, I am the mother and child, I God, I matter am. Essentially, it's talking about spirit incarnating to matter. Virgo, an earth sign. But there's also some complex interpretations associated with this. For instance, the sun, as part of that, the SON sun, where it says back here, I'm the mother and the child of the sun can be Mercury. The mother is the third aspect that gives birth. All three aspects are associated with Virgo. The third aspect, the second aspect, and the first aspect via Vulcan. So that's about all I can comment upon that at the moment. I take it with a grain of salt if Steiner said that Lazarus and John the Baptist were previous incarnations of Raphael. They may well have been, but it's not necessarily provable. And of course, Raphael I do cover in one of my newsletters, as well as Michelangelo. Both of those, I think, Raphael in the Pisces newsletter for 1 year or another going back. But if you do a search in the search by subject part of the directory, the menu on my website, you'll find that essay. All right. So of course, Christ or Jesus was reportedly born of a virgin, in other words, born in the sign of Virgo. And I have a horoscope that I generated from that, which is also in some newsletter or another. His sun in Virgo, and I think it was about 7 BC, is the horoscope that I'm using. That was generated by a famous astrologer in USA, Zipporah Dobbins, actually. That was the one out of all the 10 or so different charts of Jesus I looked at that appealed to me the most. Yeah. All right. So now coming to Elizabeth. As I said before, she passed on the day when the Christian church celebrates the birth of the Virgin Mary, September the 8th. Impeccable timing, one could argue. She passed in the sign of Virgo, which means that in her next incarnation, she will incarnate in that sign again as her sun sign, or his or her personality expression, whatever gender is chosen. Of course, Elizabeth I was known as the Virgin Queen. She had the sun in Virgo with Capricorn rising, the same as Elizabeth II. And where Elizabeth I had the moon in Taurus, Elizabeth II had the sun in Taurus. Taurus being a sign of great perseverance and strength. And I think that's what really drove Elizabeth II very powerfully, in a very grounded, earthy way. Taurus and Capricorn both, and Virgo, all being earth signs. So you could say they all had triangles, not necessarily a grand triangle, but triangles of energy relating to all the earth signs. It is probable, however, that these incarnations were those of different souls. Nevertheless, with Capricorn as the sign of initiation, they both probably took a major initiation in their respective incarnations, at least the second degree, perhaps even the third degree. I know Elizabeth the first for sure. Elizabeth the second, I'm not quite certain, but I suspect that could be the case as well. So we have to, whatever your thoughts about the royal family, there's a lot of controversy, of course, and about Elizabeth and all the negative propaganda and hateful kind of internet gossip. She was born into an age that she chose to serve and really did a remarkable job of doing that, playing pretty much the role of a chief executive officer of a corporation or a company. And saw many prime ministers come and go. There's a post I have on Facebook about a brief post that I made yesterday regarding that, and I'll be talking more about it in the Libra newsletter, just the greater picture of the implications of her passing and the passing of the baton on to Charles III, King Charles III, as is known already. And I thought I'd play you this video. I'm not sure that it's going to work. It's a Giphy thing. Please tell me on the chat if it's playing. Well, there you go. So I can just present more things. I don't have anything else prepared, but there's plenty of things that can be explored with regard to Virgo. But as usual, your comments and questions bring about some of my intuitive responses. So please comment. If I don't get any comments, then we will close the meeting. So I'll just give that another minute for anyone to make a comment, question. All right. Well, I don't know whether any of you have read the latest newsletter on my website. If you're not on my email list, do sign up for receiving that email in your inbox. And of course, there are Virgo newsletters going back for 20 years on my website and in my books too. Solar Cycles of the Seven Rays, volume 1 to 5, and Destiny of the Races and Nations, volume 1 to 5, contain all my 20 years of newsletters. So please support my work by going to the website and maybe purchasing a few of those books. So I still have not had any comments. I do thank you all very much for turning up tonight and participating in the meditation. This is the main work that we're doing here, of course. But just to mention that these webinars are a glimpse also into the Ageless Wisdom course that I'll be doing, that we'll be starting in 4 weeks' time. And we will also be probably doing an astrology course somewhere down the track, exoteric and esoteric astrology. So I will stop the share here for now. Yes, someone just said, Marie, thank you, Philip, very interesting, quite energetically intense here in the UK in the light of the Queen's passing. Of course, that's with the new government coming in as well. Huge things on the horizon. And I've been writing about Britain extensively for the last 5 years. You can find all the essays about that also under the search by subject heading on my website if you're interested in catching up with the ray energies associated with Britain, the astrological forces, London and Britain, and so forth. All right then, everyone, we don't have Natalia here to do the music, so I'm going to just close the meeting.